The BMW E30 is a compact executive car which was produced by BMW from 1982 to 1991. All variants used a rear-wheel drive layout with the exception of the all-wheel drive 325iX. The BMW M3 was first introduced on the E30 platform. The E30 was released in 1982 and was replaced by the BMW E36 in 1992. BMW continued to produce the cabriolet E30 well into 1992 and the touring until June 1993. The cars were powered by a range of inline 4-cylinder and inline 6-cylinder engines. The E30 BMW M3 was fitted with a high-revving 4-cylinder petrol engine which produced 175 kW in its final European-only iteration. Body styles. The E33 series was penned by Klaus Luth in 1978, the designer of the NSU E30. It was produced as 4- and 2-door saloons, 2-door convertible, cabriolet by bow and 5-door estate. The BMW M3 utilized a widened and heavily redesigned variation of the 2-door body style. The M3 shares few body parts with other E30 models. However, many M3 parts can be used on the other body styles and are interchangeable, offering the consumer an OEM upgrade. Production history. Initial release. Externally, the appearance is very similar to the E21 predecessor, however there are various detail changes in styling to the E30. Major changes over the E21 include interior features and revised suspension. The primary distinctive feature of the BMW E30 models produced for the North American markets in 1984–1987 are the elongated front-rear aluminum bumpers. These bumpers are commonly known as diving boards. Minor update. This update included changes to exterior and interior trim. The 323i model was replaced with the 325i at this time. Major update. In September 1987, BMW introduced a major update to the E30. The changes to the lineup were the addition of the touring variant and removal of the 325e model. The M10 4-cylinder engine was replaced by the M40. External styling changes included the front bumper, rear lights, rear apron, headlight reflectors and license plate frame. Rust protection was improved with the update. Various mechanical changes were made, including updating of the engine range. In 1988, the anodized aluminum bumpers for the North American market were shortened by revising the cover fillers and shortening the shocks. In 1989 the chrome-plated steel bumpers were replaced with shorter plastic bumpers in body color. Engines. Following on from the E21, at the launch of the E30 range in 1982 it was fitted with M10 straight 4 and M20 straight 6 engines. Over the production run, the M10 was replaced with the M40 and M42, the M20 received various upgrades and the BMW S14 engine was introduced in the M3. 4-cylinder. At the launch of the E30 range in 1982, the 316 used a 1,766 cc M10 fed by a carburetor and producing 66 kW. This engine allowed BMW to offer a cheap, entry-level car in the range. The 318i had the same M10 engine, but with Jetronic fuel injection, pushing power to 77 kW while also improving fuel economy. The 1987 Series 2 update introduced a new 4-cylinder SOHC engine, the 1,796 cc with 85 kW. This engine incorporated Motronic fuel injection, hydraulic valves adjusters and a belt-driven cam. The 316 was replaced by the 316i, which used a 1,596 cc M40B16, producing 75 kW. Not quite as torquey as the 66 kW 1,766 cc M10 it replaced. Nevertheless, it offered superior performance. In South Africa and perhaps some other markets, the old M10-powered 316 continued until 1991, gaining the new bumpers when the range was updated. The 316i model was not sold in Australia, where the base model was the 318i. The 318i's coupe was released in 1989, soon followed by the 318i sedan and 318iC convertible. These models introduced a new engine, the chain-driven DOHC-M42 1.8 L16-valve engine W. This is the most modern engine available in the E30 range, incorporating the updated Bosch Motronic 1.3, hydraulic valve adjusters and 4 individual coil packs, which resulted in a very high HP per litre as well as reasonable fuel economy and CO2 emissions. The excellent weight distribution of the 318 has led to frequent comparisons with the famous E30 M3. Nicknames include Mini M3, or Poor Man's M3. The M3 is powered by the BMW S14 engine, a high-revving motorsport engine. 6-cylinder, at the launch of the E30 range, the 320i and 323i were available, both using Bosch L-Jetronic fuel injection. These models were not sold in North America, presumably for emissions reasons. In 1985, the 323i was replaced with a 2.5L version of the M20, which produced 126 kW and used Bosch Motronic fuel injection. This engine was available in the 325i variants. An economy version called the 325e was released as a lower revving, more fuel-efficient engine. To maximize low rev torque, the engine was the largest available in the chassis. The 2.7L had a longer stroke than the 2.5L, with a more restrictive head, 4 cam bearings instead of 7, and single-valve springs where the 2.5L had doubled-up springs. This resulted in 90 kW at 4250 rpms and, more importantly, 240 Nm at 3250 rpms at 4000 rpms. The 1987 Series 2 update boosted the 320i to 95 kW and the 325i to 126 kW and improved fuel economy. Drivetrain: in total, 8 transmissions were available for the various models of the E30, 5 manuals, and 3 automatics. Manual transmissions: the standard gearbox for the 316 and some 318i models is the Getrag 224-speed, these models had the option of the 5-speed Getrag 240. The Getrag 220 does not have synchronization reverse. The 5-speed 318i models used a Getrag 240 gearbox. This gearbox is also used on the 320i, however with a different bell housing to suit the M20 engine. The 323i and 325i use the stronger Getrag 265 speed. It is suggested that the 323i may have had a sports manual as an option. Some European market facelift M20 cars were also available with a ZF manual, however this was not an option, or specific to any particular market or factory, and it is very rare to find. The M3 was fitted with a Getrag 265 5-speed manual gearbox. This featured a dogleg shift pattern for European models and a standard H pattern for North American models. Automatic transmissions: both automatic transmissions were manufactured by ZF. They were the 3-speed 3 horsepower 22, which was available on the M10 316 and 318i models until year 1985, and the 4-speed 4 horsepower 22, which was available on all models later. 320i and 325i have the option of the Sport Automatic, that was an electronic box rather than the usual fully mechanical box. This is much less common to find in USA than Euro market cars, though it is still fairly uncommon in Euro market cars too. Transmission gear ratios: differentials: there were many differentials used on the E30 models. The 316 and 318i shared a differential, as did the 320i and 323i, with the standard transmission. 323i models with sports transmissions had a different differential. The 325i received its own ratio, as did the 325e. The various M3s had special ratios as well. In some markets, LSD differentials were optional for all models. The all-wheel drive system on the iX models used 3 differentials to distribute power to the wheels, 3763 split front to rear. The center and rear differentials use viscous couplings to split torque. The front differential was open. Models and production volumes. Global E30 production totals by year. Note, the very first E30s were produced in December 1981, but it was only a few of the 323Is. Exactly how many is still unknown. Global E30 production totals by model. The total production from 1982 to 1993 was 2,339,520 units. Special models. In addition to the famous M3, there were other special models of the E30. For Portugal and Italy only, due to considerably higher VAT and vehicle tax for cars with engines exceeding 2,000 cc's, a special model was created, the 320 is. This model was produced both in 2- and 4-door versions and was equipped with a 2.0L version of the S14 engine from the M3, with stroke reduced to 72.6 М, and power output of 192 HP. The 320s shared the same dogleg Getrag 265 gearbox of the non-US M3, while it had a limited slip differential with the same 25% lockup rate but with a closer ratio. All the 320s were left-hand drive and without catalytic converter. ABS and power steering were also fitted as standard equipment. The saloon version appeared in the dealers' showrooms on September 1987, while the 2-door version arrived on March 1988. The 4-door was equipped with 14 inches alloy wheels and fog lights only, while the 2-door model was further equipped with a complete M-Technic 2 aero package, which consisted of a deeper front air dome, additional lower side body panels, an extended valance under the rear bumper and a 2-piece rear spoiler. In addition, the 2-door E30 320 sported body color side mirror housings, shadowline window trim and 14-inch cross-spoke alloy wheels. The springs, shocks and anti-roll bars of all 2 doors are of the more aggressive Sport Firework specification. The interior of the 320s was identical to that of other 3 Series models, with the sole exception of its unique instrument cluster that utilized the same M3 dashboard with integrated oil temperature gauge at the bottom of the rev counter instead of the econometer present on all other E30s. The car was sold for 3 years only and produced in 3748 examples, and for this reason is now becoming a collector's item. BMW South Africa's motorsport division created the 333i in 1986 by fitting the 3210cc's M30 Big 6 engine to a 2-door E30. The resulting 333i was a major success in saloon car racing in that country and is now a collector's item. These cars, built with help from Alpina in Buchloe, Bavaria, Germany, featured some interesting compromises, like forcing the buyer to choose between air conditioning or power steering. They were only built in small numbers in 1986. BMW South Africa provided the following specifications for the 333i: power plant, M30 B32 6-cylinder 3210cc's 145 a kilowatt at 5500 rpms 285 Nm torque at 4300 rpms. The cars were fitted with a 5-speed manual gearbox and limited slip differential. Braking was enhanced by 296 mm Alpina dual-ventilated grooved front disc brakes. ABS was optional. The cars were fitted with 16x7J Alpina wheels and Pirelli P7 tires. BMW provided performance figures were impressive, with a top speed of 228 km/h. 0-100 km/h in 7.4 seconds, and a standing kilometre in 27.7 seconds at sea level. Actual South African Car Magazine road test figures were a top speed of 231 km/h, 0-100 km/h in 7.23 seconds and a standing kilometre in 28.08 seconds. The test was carried out with a driver, passenger and a full tank of fuel. Only 204 of these cars were produced. Later, when it became clear that South Africa would not be getting the M3, the 325s was created. Initially this was merely a 325i 2-door fitted with a bodykit and a close ratio gearbox, but more changes were made to keep the car competitive in South African saloon car racing. Nevertheless, these cars were always sold to the public. This resulted in the 325s of late 1990. By now several body panels were made of aluminum and the M20 engine grew to 2.7L and now produced 145 kilowatt and a 0-62 mph in a mere 6.9 seconds as claimed by BMW South Africa. Due to increased competition in the production car A series it was competing in, another version was released in late 1991 called the 325 as Evo. The main revisions were a front aerofoil to smooth underbody airflow, shorter stiffer springs, thicker rear anti-roll bar and changes to the throttle body, exhaust manifold and inlet valves. It produced 155 kilowatt and BMW South Africa claimed a top speed of 235 km/h with a 0-100 km/h in 6.9 seconds. It did win the 1993 Group N race series under Robbie Smith and set various track records in the process. The cabriolet version continued to be built to the end of April 1993 and the touring version continued to be built to the end of June 1995. John Player Special, JPS, Bathurst Edition. Built to celebrate Bathurst wins by BMW in 1980s, there were 8 special edition E30 John Player Special cars brought into Australia. Signified by the Schatz black body, gold pinstripe and gold-coloured weave wheels. Other than sharing the 323i motor and gearbox, the cars also came with Recaro sports seats, JPS badging, a limited slip diff, M Sport suspension, sunroof and unique body kit. BMW Alpina C1 B3. The Alpina C1 was based on the 323i and was among their most popular models, providing superior performance over the unmodified car. The C1 made 125 kW/170 horsepower and 225 Nm of torque. 0 to 100 km/h was achieved in 7.8. Top speed was 213 km/h. Only 35 C1 cars were built, making it one of the rarest Alpina cars. As BWM released the 325i, Alpina responded with the C2 2.5 and later the 2.7 models, providing between 190 to 210 horsepower. The brakes and suspension were also upgraded. The C1 2.5 and early C2/2.6 models used the M20 B23 engine, but bore and stroke were increased to achieve a capacity of 2552 cm3. Alpina reworked the head which was ported and polished, installed harder valve springs and a hotter cam. The intake manifold was also reworked, and Alpina used a larger throttle body. Max power was 136 kilowatts/185 bhp, with 246 Nm of torque. Alpina claimed 0 to 100 km/h acceleration in 7.1 seconds. Top speed was 220 km/h. Only 74 cars were built. Later C2 2.5 models were based on the 325i. Alpina used the M20 B25 engine with very few modifications compared to earlier models. Again the cylinder head was decked to increase compression ratio, and it was ported and polished. The ECU was also remapped. Max power is 140 kW/190 bhp, with 235 Nm of torque. 0 to 100 km/h was achieved in 7.2 seconds. Top speed is 220 km/h. Only 50 cars were built. The C2/1 2.7 used the 325 E30 model engine block, crank and rods, but with custom flat-head pistons provided by Mile. Originally Alpina modified the 200 casting number cylinder head specific to the 325e with bigger intake valves, larger air intake ports, and redesigned the valve chamber for better flow. A more aggressive camshaft was used, with higher lift and duration, and harder valve springs were installed. Compression ratio was increased to 10.21. The C2/1 2.7 made 210 bhp with 267 Nm of torque and was the fastest E30 available at the time. 108 cars were built. Later C2/2 2.7 used the M20 B25 block with ETA crank and rods. The intake manifold was also redesigned for better flow, The head was decked to improve compression ratio and matched with custom pistons, flat mild pistons for engines equipped with the 731 head, and domed KS pistons for engines equipped with the 885 head. Larger throttle bodies were installed. A total of 309 cars were built between 1986 and 1987. The C2/2 2.7 makes 204 bhp and 266 Nm of torque. Top speed is 224 km per hour and 0 to 100 kph is achieved in 7.5 seconds. The B3 2.7 is similar to late C2/2 2.7 cars. It uses the M20B25 block with M20B27 crank and custom rods. The 885 head is exclusively used for the B3 model. The head is decked 1 mm to improve CR to 9.61 and matched with custom domed KS or mild pistons. Intake and cylinder head are ported and polished. Custom ECU mapping is used. Engine management is Bosch Motronic 1.3. The B3 2.7 is equipped with a catalytic converter to conform to emission standard of the time. Performance numbers are similar to the later C2/2 2.7 cars. 254 cars were built from 1987 to 1992. Alpina B6 2.8. The B6 2.8 is based on the 323i, but uses the same B6/2 engine used in the B6 E21. The car makes 210 bhp and 270 Nm of torque. Top speed is 230 km per hour. 0 to 100 is achieved in 7.2 seconds. 259 cars were made from 1983 to 1986. Alpina B6 3.5. The Alpina B6 3.5 is based on the 325i chassis, but uses the M30 Big 634 30 cm 3 engine, upgraded to 261 bhp and a whopping 346 Nm of torque. 0 to 100 km per hour is achieved in 6.4 seconds. The engine uses custom mild pistons and rods. The cylinder head was ported and polished, and a hotter cam was used. Top speed is 250 km per hour. Suspension and brakes were upgraded. Bigger ventilated discs and progressive springs were installed at the front. Only 210 cars were made from 1986 to 1990. Alpina B6 3.5S. The Alpina B6 3.5S uses the M3 chassis. The 3.5s like the 3.5 uses the B10/2 M30 Big 6 which makes 261 bhp and 346 Nm of torque. Displacement is 3430 cm 3. 0 to 100 km per hour is achieved in 6.4 seconds. Top speed is 250 km per hour. The gearbox used as the famous Keytrack 260/6 Sport known as the dogleg gearbox with reversed first and second gears. Only 62 cars were made from 1987 to 1990. Suspension. One of the features that added to the roominess of the E30 was the suspension. The front McPherson struts and rear semi-trailing arm suspension were a compact arrangement that left a lot of cabin and boot space for the car's overall size. The semi-trailing arms have been criticized for the dynamic toe and camber changes inherent to the suspension geometry, causing bump steer in hard cornering situations. This has contributed to the E30 as having a reputation for tail-happy handling, where rear grip is reduced in certain situations, leading to oversteer. The M3 model has unique suspension compared to the rest of the E30 range, including 5 lug wheel bolts. A widened version of the E30 front suspension and the drivetrain from the E30 325i were used in the BMW Z1 Roadster. The BMW Z3 and BMW compact rear suspensions are also very similar to the E30, but utilizing 5 lug hubs. The BMW M Coupe uses a widened version of the same rear semi-trailing arm suspension. Service indicator. The E30 was the first 3 Series car to be fitted with an onboard service indicator, consisting of an LED bar graph plus inspection, ABS and oil service warning lights. Top Gear appearance. The episode aired February 13, 2011, contained a challenge for a 4-seat convertible costing under £2,000. All three presenters purchased E30 325i convertibles. Modifications to the cars included Clarkson's car having a large paving slab in the boot to improve handling, and Hammond's car having aftermarket wheels and lowered suspension. May's car was unmodified, and subsequently won the challenge by a significant margin. Further reading, Jeremy Walton. BMW 3 Series Collector's Guide, Generation 1 and 2 including M3. Motor Racing Publications. ISBN A1-899870-55-5 R.M. Clark. BMW Series 3 to 4-cylinder cars Gold Portfolio. Brooklands Books. ISBN A1-85520-149-6 A.K. Legg and Larry Warren. BMW 3 and 5 Series Haynes Service and Repair Manual. Haynes. ISBN A1-85960-236-3 Various authors. BMW Series 3 Studio Star Copyright Knikos Y Documentation Cubed N. Anito Itai. ISSN 1134-7155 Andrew Everett. BMW E30-3 Series Restoration Bible. Brooklands Books. ISSN 18550266781 Robert Bentley. BMW 3 Series Service Manual, 1984 Euro 1990. Bentley Publishing. ISSN 0837603250 References. External links, BMW 3 Series at DMOZ.